Hello lovely people, welcome again to the Love Me channel. Thank you for taking the time to invest in yourself. In this video we talk about the effect of your childhood on your love life. We all know the life stages. We're children, we go through an awkward, angsty teenage phase, and then we're adults. As adults, many of us eventually start dating, fall in love, and plan on spending our lives in a relationship. It's easy for us to separate our childhood from our adult love lives. After all, what do my childhood memories and young experiences have to do with my adult relationships? They're years in the past. In actuality, your childhood affects your love life in drastic ways. In fact, experiences and patterns in your childhood might be causing much of the harm or conflict in your relationship. We're hugely influenced by our upbringing in ways we don't even realize. The more we can become aware of these influences, the more we can understand how to use them to benefit rather than harm our relationships. To understand how your childhood is impacting your love life, you first need to identify what patterns and norms came from your childhood. Humans learn by observing and mimicking others. Today at Love Me, we combined 8 of the different patterns from our childhood that affect our love life as adults today. Number 8. Your communication patterns. Every family communicates differently. In some families, conflict is dealt with in low voices and quiet nods. In others, conflict might involve a lot of yelling and hollering at each other. Or in a particularly dysfunctional choice, conflict isn't acknowledged at all. We all develop our own unique communication styles, but that doesn't mean we aren't significantly influenced by our family's patterns. These differences in communication will inevitably come out in our relationships. Let's say Johnny's family tended to holler at each other when they disagreed with each other. After their loud conversation, everyone would move on and get along fine. But Johnny's partner, Casey, comes from a family in which yelling was seen as unloving. Suddenly, when Johnny gets angry and yells, Casey thinks it's the worst thing he could do. Meanwhile, Johnny is just trying to express himself. This difference results in a communication breakdown. The sooner you can identify your communication patterns, the sooner you can acknowledge them to your partner. Then, together, you can establish communication norms for your relationship. Number 7. Your beliefs and values. We are significantly influenced by the adults who raised us when it comes to our beliefs and values. In fact, many of us can immediately name a recurring value that our parents or guardians taught us growing up. Even as we grow and develop our own values, we carry these childhood beliefs with us into our adult relationships. My parents planted in me a deep emphasis on self-discipline. Not only does self-discipline define my life, but I saw it as a standard by which to determine others too. Therefore, when my girlfriend wasn't always the most self-disciplined, I judged her for it. It took many conversations for me to realize that self-discipline was not the most important value, but rather something that I was raised to believe was more important than others. It's difficult to break away from the beliefs and values of our childhood. When it comes to relationships, you need to be aware that other people might have different values. Number 6. Your signs of affection. If we were fortunate to grow up around loving relationships, we spent many hours observing how those relationships functioned. In particular, we noticed how the couple displayed signs of affection. We inevitably adopted these signs of affection as typical. Then we brought them into our adult relationships without questioning them. There are many ways to show affection. For some people, an act of love might be to be overtly helpful and generous, always asking, "What can I get you?" For others, it might be the complete opposite. Love might be shown through self-sufficiency, so as not to be a burden. As a result, partners might not feel affection because they're showing it in different ways. The sooner you can get on the same page, the better. Number 5. Your attachment styles. Without diving too deeply into the research behind attachment theories, we can still learn how they affect our relationships. According to psychologists, there are 4 attachment styles that adults adopt. Secure, comfortable with intimacy, not worried about rejection, autonomous. Anxious, preoccupied, very insecure about the relationship, crave closeness. Avoidant, uncomfortable with intimacy, values independence and freedom. Anxious avoidant, uncomfortable with intimacy and worried about a partner's commitment and love. It's not difficult to see how our attachment styles can affect our romantic relationships. What might be more difficult to see is how our childhood shaped our attachment styles. In fact, our attachment strategies are rooted in the attachments we had as children. Some of us were fortunate to grow up with secure attachment. In other words, we had parents that were involved, caring, and expressive of their love. This means we'll be better prepared to be open and trusting in our adult relationships. Not surprisingly, if we grew up with unpredictable, neglectful, or unreliable parents, we will likely feel insecure about our adult attachments. Number 4. Your mindset on money. Despite our secret fantasies about finding and marrying a prince, most people tend to marry within their social class. In fact, this phenomenon is happening so often that it's contributing to the widening class divide, and it makes sense why it's happening. In our childhood, we develop a mindset on money based on the quality of life we have or aspire to have. Beyond the need for food and shelter, there really is no universal standard for how to spend your money. Some people have no problem dropping hundreds of dollars on clothes, while other people wear the same sweater for 10 years but fly to a new city every month. Others might put every spare cent of their paycheck toward retirement. These differing opinions will come up in our relationships, especially as two people begin to merge their lives. They'll need to question their mindset of money. While you don't need to agree on everything, you will need to find a balance. Number 3. Your coping mechanisms. Ever heard of the phrase, "let your inner child play"? We all have inner children who may or may not need to play. However, our inner children definitely come out with the coping mechanisms we formed in childhood. These coping mechanisms then repeat themselves in our adult relationships. Growing up, I adopted a perfectionist mindset to receive affirmation and approval. Without even realizing it, I slipped into a pattern of control to fight off any negative emotions I faced. Whenever I fought with my girlfriend in our first year of dating, I quickly slipped back into a critical state as a need for control. It took me a lot of work to identify when my little boy reaction was coming out. Once I did, however, I could recognize the coping mechanisms that might have served me earlier in life no longer did. Number 2. Your behavioral patterns. Behavioral patterns might seem like a catch-all, but that doesn't mean it shouldn't be mentioned. Every family operates very differently with their routines, traditions, and everyday behaviors. We grow up considering what we do as the norm. As we make our way into adulthood, we continue many of these norms. They might be as simple as what time you eat dinner, or as loaded as power dynamics in a family. For example, my girlfriend comes from a family of nappers. 2-hour naps are a regular part of their routine, especially on busy days. My parents, on the other hand, are a few hours away from being insomniacs. These differences certainly come out in our daily lives. At times, we have to give up our behavioral patterns. At other times, we make room for each other's patterns. When two people come together with different norms, they need to work to establish a new normal. This process is going to take some patience and time. Number 1. Your outlook on family. Of all the differences in values and behaviors, one particular value deserves its own category: how much importance you place on family. During childhood, we all developed views on family, love, and what we deserved. Sometimes we made these decisions consciously, but more often than not, they formed without our awareness. Do you view a relationship as a team? Does family require specific roles? How much priority do you put on family? It's critical that you first know what you want from a relationship. Once you have this level of self-awareness, you can be open about what you and your partner want. It can be scary, but with this aspect above all else, you need to be on the same page. Thank you so much for watching this video. Remember, you are love and you are loved. Please subscribe to keep updated on new videos. Feel free to ask any questions below in the comments.